This is my DVD review of Ring of Honor, A New Level, their debut at the Hammerstein Ballroom back in May. And this was a Ring of Honor show I actually attended, so far in Ring of Honor's history, the only one I attended. So during this review, I'll probably give my thoughts on if I noticed anything different from being there live to the DVD. I would say pretty much everything on the DVD translated well to DVD, like I would expect. There was definitely one match that I would say was a whole lot better there being live than it actually ended up being on the DVD, and that was the main event title match with Claudio Castagnoli and Nigel McGuinness. Now, that was the one thing I would say on this DVD that was better there live than it was on DVD, and definitely with being there live, there's a few spots within the tag team title match that I actually missed due to them fighting outside the ring. But other than that, pretty much everything ended up being on DVD that I thought it would translate well. And definitely I would say a good show, not a great show. The opening matchup was Roderick versus Erick Stevens versus Go Shiozaki in a three-way for the FIP title. And this was definitely a very, very good opener. Crowd was really into it. A lot of good back and forth action. As you expect, this was a very stiff match. A lot of back and forth chops. There was one portion in this match where all three opponents were in the middle of the ring, exchanging chops back and forth between each other. Erick Stevens and Roderick Strong, they meshed very well, like they always do with each other. Go Shiozaki in here just, added to their feud and, helped out with this match. Go Shiozaki did very good in here. Pretty much, this was a short match. This is only, 8 to 9 minutes, which you expect them to maybe get a little longer for this match. But for the time that it was allotted and for what they did, this was a very entertaining match. Crowd was really into it. The way this match ends is Erick Stevens hits the Dr. Bomb onto Go Shiozaki, goes for the 3 count, it gets the 2, and out of nowhere, Roderick Strong rolls Erick Stevens up into the pinfall, and Roderick Strong retains the FIP title in this match, pretty much building up to their match they had at the Respect Is Earned 2 pay-per-view back in the month of June. And this is definitely a very good opener, 3 1/4 stars. I would actually say that this was the second best match of the night on this show, and that was definitely a good opener. It showcases that, you don't have to have long matches to have something good. I mean, this showcases that TNA needs to do stuff like this with their X Division. If they gave their guys 8 to 10 minutes and let them go out there and perform like this and perform to their complete level, they could put on some good stuff. Hence like the back in July when TNA did the Motor City Machine Guns versus Doi and Yoshino. It wasn't a long match, but it was a very good TV match, and definitely, they need to start doing more of that. And, this was a very entertaining match. It was the opener, like I said, 3 1/4 stars, second best match of the night. Then the next matchup was a tag team match with the No Remorse core of Davey Richards and Rocky Romero versus Kevin Steen and El Generico. This was pretty much a match that was set up at the last show before this, which was the 6th anniversary show in New York, and their next show was obviously this show, A New Level, pretty much built up to take on each other. Back then, Steen and Generica said we're on after your tag straps. Obviously, Davey Richards and Rocky Romero, they lost it at the Injustice show to the Briscoes, and then we all know what happened with the whole, mishandling of the tag team titles this whole year in Ring of Honor, and the what they did with the Briscoes, and then Age of Fall went in, and just recently, 2 months ago, Steen and Generica finally win the tag team titles, and that at the recent pay-per-view that just aired on pay-per-view just very recently, Driven 2008. And this was a good tag team match. I was expecting a little more from it. I've seen these two teams in better matches before, but what they did in here was pretty good. Started off a tad bit slow, then started to build up very good. Steen and Generico were very mad over in New York City. Probably, I would say, them or Necro Butcher got the loudest pop of the night, and especially, Bryan Danielson, he got a good ovation as well. But this was a good tag team match. The way the match ends is Steen and Generico hit the package pile driver, brainbuster combination to Davey Richards. El Generico gets the pinfall for him and Steen. Him and Steen pick up the victory in a 3-star match. Very solid tag team match. Then the next match was a tag team scramble with the Sweet and Sour Incorporated of Chris Hero and Brent Albright versus the Vulture Squad of Jack Evans and Jigsaw versus Pelle, Primeau, and Delirious. This was just a typical Scramble match, stuff you would expect. You saw Jack Evans, Jigsaw do a lot of high-flying stuff, a lot of fast-paced stuff from them. Delirious got in his stuff. Pelle and Chris Hero, they actually worked very good with each other. Albright got in his power maneuvers. Pretty much at one point or another, he was dominating, pretty much beating the hell out of Pelle. Pelle was going back and forth with him. And this was, a very good tag team scramble between these two teams. Like I said, what you'd expect. Wasn't great, but it was, average to good. Jack Evans and Jigsaw. Unfortunately, Jack Evans was still in Ring of Honor. This would be the version of the Vulture Squad I would like to see teamed up, because what they did in this match showcased that if they were a long-standing tag team, they could definitely build up something good, possibly, good enough to be tag team champions. Not really filling the Ruckus and Jigsaw team. Not saying it's a bad team, but I think, Jigsaw and Jack Evans, I think they, kind of coexist and work a little better together, but not taking anything away from Ruckus. Now, like I said, this was a, good scramble match, not great. The way this match ends is some point or another, Albright gets his vision impaired. I think Delirious poked him into the eye, and his vision's impaired. He accidentally hits his partner, Chris Hero. Then Delirious hits the chemical imbalance to Chris Hero in a 2 3/4 star match. Delirious and Pelle pick up the victory. Then after this match, Larry Sweeney gets in the ring with all the Sweet and Sour members in there. Johnny Fairplay was in attendance as well with Larry Sweeney. And this is when Larry Sweeney basically blames Brent Albright for their loss in this match. And then after this is when Brent Albright turns on Sweet and Sour Incorporated, turns face, and a very loud pop from the crowd in attendance for this. Definitely great moment to see him turn face. Definitely liked that a lot. And definitely got a really big pop when he hit the half Nelson suplex to Sarah Del Rey. Next match up was Bryan Danielson versus Naomichi Marufuji, and easily the match of the night. Definitely a great match, a lot of good back and forth action. If you're a fan of technical wrestling, mat wrestling, you would really love this match. Great stuff between these two, a lot of good reversals, counters, just what can I say, a very, very great match between these two. 4 1/4 stars. Bryan Danielson picks up the victory after Marufuji taps out of the cow mutilation. Definitely, like I said, match of the night. Very good stuff between those two. Then after this is when they did the whole Daisy Hayes coming out here announcing that at this show, Ring of Honor set a new attendance record. Then this leads Delirious to come out there, tries to ask Daisy Hayes out on a date. This is the running storyline they were going with. Every time Daisy Hayes was out there, Delirious tries to come out there, ask for a date. Then Rhett Titus interferes and, basically cock blocks Delirious. And this is where the infamous and probably famous Ring of Honor chant from the crowds, "You got cock block," after Delirious drops the rose and Delirious. And then we all know where this leads to, where Delirious later on turns heel and joins the Age of the Fall, which definitely I'm glad they did that, because definitely his character needed something new dimension to it, because he was pretty much getting stale within, I would say, the last year, possibly even year and a half. I mean, he's been pretty much, ever since they did the Delirious involved with Steen and Generico with the Hangman's 3, ever since they started ever doing that, that was pretty much, not the death of Delirious character, but pretty much was when they pretty much got him in something where his character wasn't as good as it once was. Then the next matchup was Takeshi Morishima versus the Necro Butcher, and this was a very disappointing match. Now, some people were expecting something great from this. I was just expecting something overall, maybe a good, hardcore, good, stiff match, and you pretty much didn't get that. This was not intended to be a squash towards Necro Butcher, but pretty much it was pretty much a squash towards Necro. Necro got in some offense, but it was pretty much Morishima dominating him a lot. This wasn't even a long match at all. I would say maybe 10 minutes, maybe, I doubt it even went close to 15, but definitely should have got more time. They should have probably done a few more stuff in there, due to, how much pain Necro Butcher takes. This match ended with top rope. At first, Necro Butcher's draped on the top rope. Morishima gets up there, back by drops him through a steel chair. Necro kicks out of that, so it doesn't really hurt him there. Then Morishima hits him with a very stiff lariat, then another backdrop driver, and that's the end of the match. Kind of disappointing match. I was expecting a little more from it, but I wasn't expecting like some people were, a great match. 2 stars at best. Probably the only thing on this whole event that I would say, just watchable at best, or, probably even terrible. That's what I would say this was. It wasn't even a good match or a good, type of squash or anything like that. It wasn't even enjoyable, I would say. Then the next matchup was Jay Briscoe and Austin Aries, which, they were the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions after Mark Briscoe got injured. Instead of vacating the titles, they had Austin Aries be Jay's partner. Then we all know what that led to, where the Briscoes basically relinquished the titles, and they did the tournament where the Age of the Fall won at the Up for Grabs show. Then, like I've said, back in September at the Driven 2008 pay-per-view taping, which just recently aired on pay-per-view, Steen and Generico won the tag team titles, and that's basically what happened with the tag team titles. I thought they should have just given, even not just now, but back then, instead of doing the whole tournament thing. I think it would have been better to write off Jay Briscoe in this match and wait for, Mark Briscoe to heal from his injuries, and instead of, having them retain and have the Age of the Fall just win here. I think that would have worked out better. But this was a good match. You saw very good stuff between Austin Aries and Jimmy Jacobs, like you would expect in this match. At one point in this match, there were pretty much a lot of brawling outside the ring in this match. Tyler Black does a moonsault off the guardrail to Jay Briscoe. Then at one point, Austin Aries is on the apron, and then Jimmy Jacobs spears him off the apron to the floor, to the guardrail. Very good spot. Then later on, both Jimmy Jacobs and Austin Aries are fighting on the top rope. There's a table just below on the floor, and they both simultaneously fall through the table. Very good spot. And then the way this match ends is Necro Butcher comes out here, tries to help the Age of the Fall to win the tag team titles. Then Mark Briscoe makes a surprise appearance, knocks down Necro Butcher, and then a Mark Briscoe, basically one-arm Mark Briscoe, because he had a cast on one arm, and then he hits the Doomsday Device to Tyler Black. The one thing that kind of surprised me, maybe he couldn't do it because of the weight of the cast, but I would expect, a wrestler with a cast, and he comes out there and wants to basically do the Doomsday Device to 2 guys that he really despises and hates. You would expect him to hit the Doomsday Device with the arm with the cast, but he didn't do that. Just hit it with the one that didn't. But that seemed a little weird to me. I know probably one of the very few that would say that, but it just seemed a little weird. I thought, two teams that hate each other, would want to do something like that, to possibly escalate and, build it up even more. And then, Jay Briscoe and Austin Aries retained. I told you what they did with the tag team titles. 3-star match. This was a good match. This was one of those matches that was better to watch on the DVD than actually live in attendance, because they did a lot of stuff outside the ring. So say if you were a couple rows back, you probably missed a lot of stuff during this match. Like, definitely I did, because I didn't miss a lot of stuff, but I missed a pretty good portion of some stuff in here due to, the crowd being in front, some people being in front of you, and just the way they were outside the ring. But like I said, good tag team match. A lot of good brawling in there. Then the main event was for the ROH World Title with Nigel McGuinness versus Claudio Castagnoli. And like I said, this was one of those matches that was better there live than it actually was on DVD. Not saying it was a terrible match, but it was one of those matches where, like I said, it was better there live than on DVD. It didn't feel like the match when I was there live, and it didn't, it was kind of, it was a good match, but it wasn't that. It was pretty much an average match. Nigel did a good job, I gotta say, working over the crowd, and the crowd, I would say pretty much was, completely behind Claudio Castagnoli. I don't know if it was because they're actually fans of Claudio, but probably mainly due to their utter hatred of Nigel McGuinness, because I remember back at the show, which in my section C, I was probably one of the very few that were on Nigel McGuinness' side. I know a lot of people, were wishing that Claudio would have won the title here, but thankfully he didn't, and Nigel's still world champion as the date right now, and he's already, held the title for 13 months, and, pretty much if he passes and defeats Bryan Danielson at the pay-per-view taping, Rising Above, and then past this Final Battle weekend. You know, definitely he's going to be going on a route of possibly defeating Bryan Danielson's 15-month title reign and being the second longest reigning Ring of Honor champion. I expect after he loses the title to have at least maybe one or two kind of transitional title reigns, because after that such long title reign, you're going to want to do that. And this was a, you know, like I said, average world title match. Nigel wins, very anticlimactical ending with Nigel just putting him into the London Dungeon, and Claudio taps out. You know, not that, you know, pretty much just a match. It didn't look like Claudio looked believable in this match as a world championship contender. Now, if you want to see a good match between these two, check out the New Horizons pay-per-view, which they just released on DVD just recently, and that was a good match between Claudio and Nigel. They did a very good stuff in that match. Compared to this, this was a 3-star match on here. Overall, I would give this show a 7.75. Saw some good stuff on here, some solid stuff, especially one great match between Bryan Danielson and Marufuji, and a very good opener with Strong, Shiozaki, and Stevens. Pretty much everything else was solid on the show. Only thing I would say that was bad or not that good was the Morishima and Necro Butcher match. This would be one of those shows that I would say, unless you're a Ring of Honor diehard and you want to see Ring of Honor's debut at the Hammerstein Ballroom, then this is one you probably can pass up on. But the only other reason that I would recommend this to anyone would be for the Bryan Danielson and Marufuji match. If you're a big fan of either one of them, you might want to check it out for that match. But like I said, unless you're a diehard Ring of Honor fan, this is one of those shows that you probably pretty much can pass up on. But, you know, a good show from Ring of Honor, just not a great show.